The danger in your next season may not be what you think it is. It may not be a person, a closed door, or some hidden force working against you. The greater danger may be reaching an important moment with an exhausted mind, making decisions that require clarity. Chosen one, think about the last few weeks before you dismiss that sentence. Maybe you have reread the same message 3 times because your mind would not settle. Maybe you have known exactly what you should do in the morning, then doubted the entire thing by night. None of those experiences prove that heaven is sending you a message, but together they raise a question worth taking seriously. What condition is the receiver in? Because a perfect signal can still sound broken through static. And that is the red alert I want you to hold today. Not fear, not punishment. Attention. Before we finish, you will understand why spiritually sensitive people can mistake mental overload for spiritual silence. You will learn how intuition and fear behave differently when both feel urgent inside the body. And you will see how to test whether you need another answer or whether you need to restore the condition from which you are trying to receive one. Later, I will return to what researchers found about how the 2 sides of the brain coordinate information. I am holding that back for now, because a solution means little until you understand the problem. You can spend an hour looking at things that do not matter and feel almost no resistance. Yet, the moment you sit down to make the call, write the application, begin the project, or have the honest conversation, fatigue appears. Suddenly, you need more information. Suddenly, tomorrow feels safer. Suddenly, your hand reaches for your phone. You may have called that laziness. I would not rush to that conclusion. Sometimes, avoidance is not evidence that you do not care. Sometimes, it appears when the mind connects an important decision with too much unresolved noise. That does not remove your responsibility. It gives your responsibility an address. Once you know where the resistance lives, you can stop fighting your entire identity and start working with the actual problem. If this distinction feels personal, write, I hear the call, not as superstition, not as proof of prophecy. Write it as your decision to pay attention instead of panic, because the first part of this red alert is about what you have been hearing. The second part is about what has been interfering with it. Why does the static often become strongest exactly when the decision matters most? Why can your mind feel calm around distractions, then suddenly become heavy around the one action that could change your direction? There is a name for the distance between a signal and your ability to receive it clearly. Once you hear that name, the last few months may look very different. Do not ask only what heaven is trying to tell you. Ask what state you are in while you are listening. Ask whether you are rested enough to distinguish conviction from panic. Ask whether you are searching for truth or searching for relief from uncertainty. Those are not the same thing, and the difference between them is where the warning begins. If heaven is warning you about anything, what exactly are you being warned not to do? Hold that question. Do not answer it yet. Before we can name the warning, we have to understand the receiver. The name for that distance is the receiver gap. It is the space between a signal that may be available and your present ability to receive, process, and respond to it clearly. Chosen one. This gap can feel deeply spiritual because it changes the texture of your inner life. You pray, but feel scattered. You seek clarity, but collect more questions. So you search harder. You open another message. You ask another friend. You revisit an old conversation. You look for one more sign that will finally make uncertainty disappear. But more input does not always create more clarity. Sometimes it creates more static. And when the receiver is overloaded, useful information can become difficult to separate from fear, memory, pressure, and expectation. This is where sincere people become cruel to themselves. They decide heaven has gone silent. They assume they have lost their gift. They wonder whether they became less worthy or less spiritually sensitive. But that explanation may be wrong. Silence does not automatically mean abandonment. Confusion does not automatically mean rejection. Sometimes the change is not in the signal, it is in the condition of the person trying to hear it. Think about a normal day. Money, family, work, and unanswered messages are already competing for attention. Then you ask one sacred question and expect instant certainty. That is a heavy burden to place on a tired mind. The story of Elijah does not present truth as something that always arrives through the loudest display. It points toward a quieter kind of recognition. That story does not prove a neurological mechanism, but it offers a useful principle. Noise can command attention while still failing to provide direction. So here is the first breakthrough. You may not need heaven to speak louder. You may need to become quieter. That does not mean escaping responsibility. It means reducing unnecessary input long enough to recognize what remains when urgency stops shouting. The goal is not emptiness. The goal is distinction. Try this before asking for another sign. Put the phone away for a few minutes. Name one question, not 5. Write down what you actually know. Then write down what you are only afraid might be true. Those two lists will often look different, and that difference can give you more useful clarity than another hour of searching. Imagine waking tomorrow without reaching for confirmation first. Let one clear thought remain long enough to become one clear action. No dramatic prediction is required. Just less noise, more attention, and more space. If you recognize that difference, write less static. Let those words mean something practical. Less borrowed urgency. Less compulsive checking. More room to discern what actually deserves your response. If you are still here, something in this probably describes more than curiosity. You may have spent a long time increasing the number of signals while never examining the receiver. But it creates a harder question. When the noise drops, how do you know the voice that remains is intuition rather than fear? Fear can feel urgent. Intuition can feel urgent too. Both can make a decision feel important. And if you confuse one for the other, reducing noise will not be enough. That distinction is where we go next. The red alert is not telling you to trust every strong feeling. It is teaching you how to become harder to mislead, even by your own fear. Now we come to one of the most dangerous mistakes a spiritually sensitive person can make. You can mistake fear for intuition. Both can arrive quickly. Both can feel urgent, but they do not behave the same way once you slow down and examine them. Fear usually demands relief. It wants certainty now. Intuition is often simpler. It may still feel serious, but it does not need a storm to keep your attention. Seeing more patterns does not automatically mean greater sensitivity. Sometimes uncertainty makes the mind search harder because uncertainty feels unsafe. A song appears at the perfect moment. A number repeats. A dream feels unusually vivid. Those experiences may feel meaningful, but meaning is not the same as instruction. The red alert is asking you to discern what deserves obedience. Here is the first question in the discernment filter. Does the signal become clearer after you calm down? Fear often becomes more dramatic when you feed it. It adds consequences. It writes entire futures in seconds. A useful conviction often becomes simpler after the nervous system settles. The wording may soften, but the direction remains. The second question is simple. Does the feeling demand immediate panic? Urgency alone does not equal truth. A real decision can have a deadline, but internal panic is not evidence that heaven has spoken. If the feeling says act now, or everything is ruined, pause before calling that intuition. The third question may protect you most. Does following this feeling require you to abandon evidence, values, or basic wisdom? If it does, stop. Discernment should make you more grounded, not less. Maybe you expected something more mystical. Good. Healthy skepticism belongs here. I am not asking you to believe every sensation is sacred. I am asking you to become harder to manipulate, including by your own fear. Try a brief body check. Let your jaw soften. Notice your shoulders. Notice your chest and stomach. Bring one unresolved decision to mind. Do not decide yet. Just notice what happens before the story begins. Tightness is not proof of danger. Calm is not proof of truth. Your body is giving you data, not a divine verdict. Ask the questions again. Does the direction become clearer when I settle? Is this asking for wise action or demanding panic? Would following it keep me aligned with evidence and values? 3 questions, no spectacle, but they can save you from calling anxiety a prophecy. If every coincidence becomes a command, you will become exhausted. You will second-guess ordinary events and hand your agency to whatever feels strongest. That is not discernment. That is captivity, wearing spiritual language. Chosen one, the goal is not to see more signs. The goal is to know which signs do not deserve your response. That identity is quieter, but it gives you something more valuable than constant confirmation. It gives you stability. Now hold one question. What if part of the clarity you have been praying for also depends on the condition of the instrument doing the receiving? Researchers have explored mental clarity through how the brain coordinates information. I will return to that after the 3rd signal. For now, remember this. Fear can imitate urgency. Pattern recognition can imitate certainty. A strong feeling can imitate instruction, but discernment survives the pause. If what remains is still clear, grounded, and consistent with reality, then you have something more trustworthy to examine. The next problem is harder. What happens when you already know what to do, but still cannot make yourself move? That is where the red alert stops being only about what you hear and starts becoming about what is interfering with action. Chosen one, there is a kind of noise that does not sound like noise. It sounds like urgency. It sounds like responsibility. It sounds like one more thing you must solve before you are allowed to rest. I call it sacred static. It is the build-up of unresolved pressure, overstimulation, fear, decision fatigue, and constant searching until every inner signal begins competing for your attention. You may recognize it in simple ways. You reopen a decision you already made. You ask another person after receiving an answer you trusted yesterday. You feel guilty when you rest. Small choices feel strangely heavy. Silence becomes uncomfortable, so you fill it with more voices. None of this means you are weak. It means your attention is crowded. Sacred static becomes dangerous when you start calling the crowding guidance. The mind is tired, but the search continues. The heart is overloaded, but the input increases. You keep reaching outward for certainty, while the inner space needed for discernment gets smaller. That is how confusion begins to feel spiritual. And when that pattern lasts long enough, you may start distrusting your own judgment, even when the answer in front of you is simple. There is an old Greek word connected with discernment, diakrisis. At its core, it points toward distinction, the ability to separate one thing from another. That matters here. Discernment is not seeing hidden meaning everywhere. It is learning what belongs together, what does not, and what deserves your response. This is why your next identity is not the person who sees everything. It is the discerner. The discerner does not obey every feeling. The discerner does not panic because something is intense. The discerner can notice a signal without surrendering to it. That is a quieter kind of power, but it is far more stable. Watch for these 5 signs. You reopen the same decision again and again. Every new opinion changes your certainty. Rest makes you feel guilty. Simple choices drain you. Silence feels so uncomfortable that you reach for more input. If 3 of those are present, the answer may not be another sign. the answer may be less static. Give yourself 10 quiet minutes before asking anyone else. Let one question stay alone long enough to become clear. If that is the identity you are choosing, write "I discern." Let it mean something specific. I can notice without reacting. I can pause without losing momentum. I can question without betraying faith. I can wait long enough to separate fear from conviction. Many people only want confirmation. You stayed long enough to hear correction. That matters because correction gives you something reassurance cannot. It gives you a way forward when the signs disagree. But there is still a deeper problem. What happens when the static drops? The answer becomes clear, and you still do not move. What happens when you know the call, understand the risk, recognize the next step, and your body still reaches for delay? That is where the red alert turns inward. The next barrier is not about hearing, it is about execution. And once you see that distinction, you may understand why insight alone has not changed your life. You can know exactly what needs to happen next and still remain frozen. That is the third signal. You understand the pattern. You have named the fear. You may even feel certain about the next step, yet the application stays unopened, the project stays unfinished, and the conversation keeps moving to tomorrow. Most people explain this by attacking themselves. They say, "I lack discipline. I lack faith. I am lazy. I always ruin my chances." But knowledge and execution are not the same process. Knowing what matters does not automatically create the capacity to act on it when your mind is overloaded. This is the breakthrough. Clarity is not movement. You can have insight while your attention is fragmented. You can understand a decision while your nervous system still treats it like danger. You can recognize the right direction and still feel resistance when the moment comes to take the first physical step. That does not remove responsibility. It changes where responsibility begins. Instead of demanding a stronger revelation, you begin improving the condition from which action happens. You stop asking why you are not stronger. You start asking what is making one clear step feel heavier than it needs to feel. Here is a simple process I want you to remember. Reduce the input. Name one decision. Separate facts from interpretation. Choose the next physical action. Then restore before repeating the analysis. This is the clear receiver protocol. First, reduce the input. Close the extra voices for a moment. Second, name one decision in one sentence. Third, write what you know, then separate it from what you fear. Fourth, choose an action that can actually be completed. Fifth, stop reopening the entire problem before your mind has had space to recover. Maybe you have already journaled. Maybe you meditate. Maybe you have listened to spiritual teachings for years. None of that makes this unnecessary. The point is not to collect a better belief. The point is to create a better condition for a decision you already understand. Imagine an opportunity arriving tomorrow. In the old pattern, fear starts first. Then, overthinking begins. You ask 5 people, search for 7 signs, sleep badly, and delay until the opportunity changes. In the clearer pattern, you pause. You separate facts from fear. You decide what matters, then you ACT. Notice what changed. The opportunity did not become more magical. You became more available to meet it. That is why the red alert is becoming more serious now. The biggest mistake may not be missing a sign. It may be carrying an old operating state into a new season. There is also something I promised to return to. Earlier, I asked whether the condition of the instrument could affect the clarity you experience. We are getting close to that answer. But first, you need to see the full shape of the problem. Because if you reduce the noise, name the decision, understand the fear, and still feel as though part of you refuses to come online, then another question appears. What if the missing piece is not another message, but the condition of the system that must receive and execute it? Hold that question. You are about to see why knowing more has sometimes failed to move you, and why the next part of this warning is not about becoming more spiritual. It is about becoming more integrated. Why does knowing all of this still fail to create movement sometimes? Why can you understand the pattern, name the fear, reduce the noise, and still feel as though part of you refuses to come online? That question has been sitting underneath everything we have discussed. The answer is not another spiritual label. It brings us to the condition of the instrument itself. This is the deepest part of the red alert. The warning is not simply that something important may approach you. It is that an important decision can arrive while you are depleted, reactive, distracted, and operating below your clearest state. The warning is not only about what is coming, it is about WHO is present when it arrives. So let us close the circle in plain language. Confusion does not automatically mean abandonment. Anxiety can imitate intuition. More information can create more static. Knowing what to do does not guarantee action. The practical path is simple. Reduce input. Separate facts from interpretation. Name one decision. Choose one physical action. Restore before reopening the problem. You are becoming someone clear enough to respond wisely. You have spent years asking for clearer answers. Perhaps the question now is whether the mind receiving those answers has been given the same care. Earlier, I asked you to hold one question. What if clarity also depends on the condition of the instrument? This is where research enters the conversation, not as proof of a spiritual claim, but as another way of thinking about how the brain coordinates information. Dr. Roger Sperry received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1981 for discoveries about the functional specialization of the cerebral hemispheres. The product materials use that history as part of their scientific framing. The same materials describe two customer experiences. One woman from California said she had lived with mental fog and the feeling that life was happening to her. According to the account, after using the program, she felt clearer and more connected in daily life. That is her reported experience, not a guarantee that another person will have the same result. A man from Texas described carrying heavy responsibility while feeling mentally foggy. The product materials say he later reported greater clarity and a stronger sense that his mind was working the way he wanted it to work. Again, that is a customer account. It should be heard as testimony, not as a promise of a medical or financial outcome. The resource is called the Genius Switch. According to its materials, it is a digital targeted auditory sequence designed to be used with headphones for about 8 minutes a day. The team behind it describes the underlying approach as neural sync technology, with the goal of supporting hemisphere synchronization and whole brain activation. The materials identify Dr. Daniel Barone as the neurologist associated with the program. They position the sequence differently from meditation, expensive neurofeedback services, and generic audio tracks. The claim is not that it makes choices for you. The offer is built around supporting a clearer mental condition through a short daily listening routine. That distinction matters. This is not for someone collecting another sign. It is for the chosen one who understands the warning. Your next season deserves a clearer decision maker. A tool does not choose for you. A tool can only support the condition from which you choose. The product materials compare the offer with more expensive neurofeedback options. They list $49 as the regular price and $39 on the referenced product page. 4 bonuses are also listed: a guided visualization, a grocery guide, a classic manifestation book, and a 5 habits infographic. The materials also describe a money-back guarantee and lifetime access. Read the official terms before deciding. Do not purchase because a spiritual message made you feel pressured. Purchase only if the tool and its intended use make sense to you. More days can pass inside the same pattern, but urgency should not replace judgment. If this resource fits what you were already seeking, evaluate it with a clear mind. Use the official source in the description and pinned comment to verify the product, price, guarantee, and terms for yourself. Know exactly what you are evaluating before you spend anything. If the approach fits what you want to work on, the official information is below. Read the details for yourself before deciding. No tool replaces discernment. No audio makes your decisions for you. No purchase proves that you are chosen. What a useful tool can do is support a condition. The responsibility for what you do from that condition still belongs to you. And that brings us back to the warning. Heaven does not need you terrified. Your next season does not need another frantic version of you searching for certainty. It needs the version of you that can pause, see what is true, and move without surrendering agency. That is why the receiver matters. That is why the static matters. And that is why the final meaning of this red alert has less to do with fear than you first imagined. The most important thing I can tell you after describing that resource is what it cannot do. It cannot decide who deserves your trust. It cannot replace sleep, medical care, prayer, wisdom, or responsibility. It cannot guarantee wealth. It cannot create destiny. It cannot make every strong feeling true. That matters because a tool becomes dangerous when you ask it to carry a job that belongs to you. The purpose of any useful resource is support. It may help create a better condition for attention, but the choice still has to be yours. The boundary still has to be yours. The next honest action still has to be yours. Maybe part of you thinks clarity works for other people, but not for you. Capacity is not moral worth. A difficult season does not prove that you are less chosen, less intelligent, or less capable of rebuilding clarity. Take a practical example. Imagine a new job opportunity appears. The old pattern starts immediately. You wonder whether it is a sign. You imagine everything that could go wrong. You ask 5 people. By the end of the day, you have more information and less certainty. Run the same moment through the clear receiver protocol. Reduce the input. Name the decision. Separate facts from interpretation. The fact may be simple. There is an offer, a salary, a role, and a deadline. The interpretation may sound different. This will save me. This will ruin me. Heaven sent this. Those are stories until evidence supports them. Then choose the next physical action. Read the offer carefully. Ask the missing question. Compare the real numbers. Sleep before answering if time allows. Restore before reopening the problem. This is not less spiritual. It is more responsible. Notice what changed. You did not become cold. You became grounded. You gave intuition room to exist without forcing it to compete with panic. That is what mature discernment looks like. If the resource described earlier is something you want to investigate, the official information remains below. There is nothing else you need to decide about it in this moment. Read it when your mind is clear, then make your own decision. The deeper current of this message is not about a product. It is about the condition in which you meet your life, because there is still one final meaning of the red alert that we have not touched. It is the reason certain seasons feel heavier even when nothing dramatic has happened yet. Some moments carry more weight because several decisions begin converging at once. Work changes, relationships reveal themselves, money requires attention, old routines stop fitting. When that happens, the cost of unconscious decision-making rises. That is the final warning we need to name. It is not about predicting disaster. It is about recognizing a window. And once you see that window, the entire message comes together. There is a name for the season I just described. I call it the red alert window. It is not a supernatural countdown. It is not proof that disaster is approaching. It is a period when several meaningful transitions overlap, so the quality of your decisions matters more than usual. You may notice old routines stop fitting. A relationship reveals what it can and cannot hold. Work starts asking a different version of you to appear. Money requires a decision you kept postponing. Your sense of purpose shifts, even if you cannot explain the new direction yet. None of those things alone proves that heaven sent a warning. But together they can create a season where unconscious choices become more expensive. That is why clarity matters. The red alert is not telling you to run. It is telling you to become present. There are signs that you may be inside this kind of window. Decisions delayed for months become unavoidable. Opportunities require faster discernment. Noise becomes harder to tolerate because the next decision cannot be made the old way. You have been willing to hear that not every feeling is intuition and that the condition of the receiver matters. Now bring one real decision to mind, just one. Do not choose the biggest problem in your life. Choose the decision that has been quietly waiting for your attention. Let it sit in front of you without solving it yet. Picture two versions of yourself standing before the same door. The first version is tired, reactive, and hungry for confirmation. That version keeps checking the handle, asking what the door means, then stepping away before making a choice. Now picture the second version. This version is not fearless. This version is clear. The same door is there, the same uncertainty is there, but this version is breathing more slowly, looking at what is true, and asking what the next honest action requires. The door did not change. The decision maker did. Let your jaw soften. Drop your shoulders. Take one slow breath. Notice the ground beneath you. Then ask yourself one question. What would the clearer version of me do next? Do not demand the entire map. Let one action be enough. Send the message. Review the numbers. Ask the question. Schedule the appointment. Say no. Say yes. Or wait one night, because waiting may be the wisest action available. If you are releasing the need for endless confirmation, write, "I choose clearly." Let that sentence mark a shift from compulsive searching to deliberate response. This is what the red alert window asks from you. Not panic, not speed for the sake of speed. Readiness. When several parts of life begin changing at once, a clear mind becomes more valuable than a dramatic sign. Before this closes, I want to give the red alert back to you in one sentence, but this time without fear attached to it. The warning was never designed to make you smaller. It was designed to wake up the part of you that can choose. So what is heaven warning you not to do? Do not surrender important decisions to the most exhausted, frightened, and fragmented version of yourself. That is the answer we have been building toward from the beginning. The red alert was never about doom. It was about wakefulness. Not danger is coming. Clarity matters now. That is a very different message, because fear makes you smaller while clarity gives responsibility back to you. You have survived seasons where survival was enough. You carried responsibilities while tired. But survival mode does not have to become your permanent identity. Release the need to turn every coincidence into instruction. Release panic disguised as urgency. Release borrowed certainty. Release shame about mental fog. Release the belief that confusion automatically means abandonment. You are allowed to pause without believing you are missing your destiny. Say this with me, if it matches the decision you are making. I do not need fear to guide me. I do not need noise to confirm me. I can pause. I can discern. I can choose. I can act. I am not chasing every signal. I am becoming a clear receiver. I am the chosen one who chooses clearly. If that is the identity you are claiming, write, "I choose clearly," not because a comment changes your future. Let it mark the decision you are making now, the decision to meet what comes next with more clarity than fear. At the beginning, I told you that a perfect signal can still sound broken through static. Now you know why that mattered. Maybe the answer was never to demand that heaven speak louder. Maybe the work of this season is becoming quiet enough, clear enough, and grounded enough to recognize what deserves your response. You do not need every answer tonight. You do not need another dramatic confirmation before you take one honest step. But it can come from a different version of you. The alert has been heard. The fear can leave. The clarity can remain. And the next decision can be made by someone who no longer confuses panic with guidance, noise with truth, or hesitation with failure. Chosen one, protect that clarity. Let it become practice. Let it become discernment. Let it become the way you meet the next door when it opens. It is sealed,